I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my. They are dying to make a deal. Please, please, sir, make a deal.
While President Trump claims countries are calling and begging him to make a deal, the truth is, 150 countries have ignored his tariffs and shown that they don't care. He expected them to panic, pick up the phone, and ask for new deals. He thought they would come begging to avoid a trade disaster. But none of that happened. The calls never came. Most nations didn't even flinch. They didn't negotiate, didn't react. They simply moved on without the US. That stunned the Trump administration. They had braced for a global outcry, a scramble to strike deals. Instead, they were met with silence. Only a few allies showed up. The rest? Radio silence. And now, Trump is furious. Not just surprised, enraged. In a surprise speech from Abu Dhabi, Trump made it clear, he's done waiting. The US is now sending out official letters to these 150 countries. But these aren't friendly letters. These are tariff bills. It's like saying, if you want to keep selling in America, you have to pay, and no more talking, no more deals.
It would be very fair, but we'll be telling people what they'll be paying to do business in the United States.
It was a bold move, but it backfired almost instantly. The stock market plunged. The S&P 500 started to fall, wiping out nearly $2 trillion in value. Major companies were blindsided. Even Walmart issued a chilling warning. We might not survive this. And the scary part? This is only the beginning. Because now the world is starting to push back. But before we break down what's coming next, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell. You won't want to miss what happens next. Now let's dive into the fallout. At a recent business event in Abu Dhabi, Trump made his frustration clear. There are 150 countries that want to talk, he said. But we don't have time to deal with them all. So we're just going to tell them what they have to pay. Trump's warning was loud and clear, and the world is starting to worry. Back on April 2nd, Trump revealed his bold Liberation Day plan. Under this plan, any country with a trade surplus, meaning they sell more to the US than they buy, would be hit with tariffs of up to 50%. But after heavy backlash, Trump offered a 90-day pause so countries could come and make new trade deals. That pause is now almost over, and most countries have stayed quiet. When Trump first announced his trade plan, he promised something extraordinary. 90 trade deals in 90 days. Each day, a new victory, a new contract, a new partnership. But after nearly 3 months, not a single binding deal had been made. The one so-called agreement with the United Kingdom turned out to be a non-binding statement, a glorified press release. And even that document included a clause that said the deal could be ignored entirely. Talks with South Korea and Japan stalled due to arguments about how the rules would be enforced. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick proudly claimed, "We're locking in results faster than ever." Yet only days later, the Federal Reserve published a troubling update that US exports had dropped by 2.1% in the second quarter. Whatever deals were happening, they weren't boosting the economy. At this point, the American public was left staring at a stage show with no substance, just empty headlines and no real change. If every so-called deal is meaningless and every promise is broken, then what is this policy really about? So far, only 2 countries, China and the UK, seem to be talking with the US. Trump's top trade team, including Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, have been trying to contact others, but according to insiders, they aren't making much progress. And Trump? He's losing patience fast. "If they don't want to come to us, then we'll just set the numbers ourselves," Trump said. "That means countries won't get a say. They'll just be told how much they have to pay to sell goods in the US without any negotiation." This is a serious warning. And Trump isn't bluffing. Right now, the US has an average 10% tariff on many imported goods. But Trump wants to raise those numbers much higher. especially for countries that have large trade surpluses like Mexico, Vietnam, or South Korea. He even admitted that the UK got lucky, locking in their deal early at just 10%. Others will not be so lucky. Trump's goal? To raise the average US tariff to 50%. That would be one of the biggest shifts in global trade policy in modern history. It could shake up supply chains, hurt businesses, and raise prices for everyday products in the US. But here's the shocking part. Many countries aren't taking the threat seriously. Why? Because creating a trade deal is complicated. It takes time, planning, and approval from many government departments. Countries can't just sign a deal overnight. And some leaders worry they'll face backlash at home if they agree to Trump's demands. So instead of rushing, most countries have chosen to do nothing. That could cost them dearly. This is why Trump's team is preparing to send official tariff letters to dozens of countries, telling them exactly what they'll have to pay. This process is called structured enforcement. But critics say it's just another word for economic pressure. And it's going to hit hard. These new tariffs may affect cars, electronics, food, medicine, everyday goods that millions of people use. Experts say this could cause price hikes in the US and serious disruptions in global trade, or even plunge the world into a recession. American companies are also worried, and Wall Street is already showing signs of stress. So here's where things stand. Trump says he's ready to do it alone. If countries don't come to the table, he will act without them. He believes the US should lead global trade, not negotiate with every single nation. Whether you call it America First or economic war, the message is clear. Trump wants to change the rules of the game. Will these 150 countries finally take Trump seriously and agree to pay? Or are we heading straight into the biggest trade war the world has ever seen? Former US Trade Representative Susan Schwab was direct and scathing. There is no legal way to set global tariffs with a memo, she said. It wasn't just misleading, it was legally impossible. And while Trump claimed the tariffs would be fair, he failed to mention a key truth. Tariffs are not paid by foreign countries. They're paid by American companies and, in the end, American consumers. A 2024 report from the Congressional Budget Office made it clear. 92% of the tariffs from Trump's first trade war were actually paid inside the US. So when you say you're punishing the world, but end up hurting your own people, is that smart trade policy? Or is it a costly bluff? While the stock market stumbled and investors grew nervous, regular Americans were hit even harder. The tariffs didn't just live in policy papers. They showed up in shopping carts and utility bills. According to a survey by the University of Michigan, 73% of Americans said tariffs were now a top financial stress. That number had jumped from 58% just a month earlier. People were feeling it, and fast. Small businesses suffered the most. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce reported over 1,300 bankruptcy filings in April alone, a 20% increase compared to the year before. Many local shops and rural businesses simply couldn't keep up. Owners faced a brutal choice: raise prices and lose customers, or cut jobs and lose staff. Some gave up entirely. A cotton hoodie from Bangladesh now costs $7 more. A basic microwave from China? Add $28. These aren't luxury items. They're everyday tools of American life. But now they cost more not because of supply issues or market demand, but because of a trade war that was built on fiction. Every time an American family pays more for toothpaste, groceries, or school supplies, they're footing the bill for a political gamble. At what point does the public say enough? Trump's message is simple: America first. He tells supporters that the US is finally taking control of its destiny. But real economic control doesn't come from empty letters or fake deals. It comes from facts, planning, and cooperation. What we're seeing instead is a dangerous illusion, one that treats global trade like a reality show, where drama matters more than results. Economists warn that we are playing with fire. The more America isolates itself, the more vulnerable it becomes. Supply chains don't rebuild overnight. Allies don't forget betrayal. And inflation, once unleashed, does not politely go away. This isn't just about numbers. It's about trust. The United States spent decades building trade relationships that kept prices stable and supply lines flowing. Now, in a matter of weeks, that entire system is being torn apart without a clear replacement. So the real question is this: how much damage must be done before we realize we're not punishing the world? We're punishing ourselves. The aggressive U.S. tariff policies of 2025 are not bold new tactics. They're recycled mistakes, eerily echoing the infamous Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930. That legislation helped crash the global economy and deepen the Great Depression. And yet, here we are again. America's average tariff rate has now soared to levels not seen since that catastrophic era, hovering around 24%. If you think this is a show of strength, think again. This is economic Russian roulette, and the chamber is spinning. Let's not pretend we haven't seen this movie before. Tariffs are often sold as patriotic shields, protecting American jobs and punishing unfair trade. But history and economics tell a different story. Higher prices, broken supply chains, and global backlash. The U.S.-China trade war of 2018 to 2019 should have been the final warning. Instead, Washington has chosen to double down, gambling that this time the outcome will be different. But when the same ingredients are thrown in the pot, you don't get a new recipe. You get the same bitter stew. This is no longer about leveling the playing field. It's about collapsing the stadium. U.S. companies are now projected to lose between $1 to $2 billion every single day due to import tariffs, resulting in about $1 trillion squeeze. This isn't protectionism. It's isolationism in action. With it comes an avalanche of job losses. Nearly 685,000 full-time positions gone. The unemployment rate will rise by at least 0.4 percentage points. Factories won't be booming. They'll be shuttered. Consumers won't be empowered. They'll be scrambling. The April 2025 IMF and World Bank meetings were laced with dread. The global growth forecast for 2025 was cut from 3.3% to 2.8%. The UN went further, predicting just 2.3%, below the danger line that typically signals global recession. The culprit? Rising protectionism, policy unpredictability, and a loss of faith in the U.S. as a stable trade partner. America's trade war isn't just damaging its own economy, it's dragging the world with it. Allies are rethinking deals. Developing nations are hedging against dollar dependence. Markets are growing jittery. Europe hasn't taken this lying down. After Trump slapped 25% tariffs on European steel, aluminum, and cars, the EU hit back with a plan targeting 26 billion euros in US goods. While some of these were suspended for now, including alcohol, Brussels isn't backing off. A proposed zero-for-zero deal on industrial tariffs hangs by a thread. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has already warned of a full-blown trade bazooka if negotiations collapse. Washington may think its allies will eventually cave. But Europe isn't just preparing to retaliate. It's preparing to decouple. Once the EU locks in alternate suppliers, those lost trade links may never return. What comes next could be irreversible. Across Asia, the dominoes are falling. Japan's exports to the US are already down 2%, dragged by new auto tariffs. Tokyo asked for mercy and was denied. Meanwhile, India's strategy is to offer US tariff relief in exchange for concessions. Taiwan called the tariffs unreasonable, but chose diplomacy over escalation. Singapore and Vietnam followed suit, avoiding retaliation but scrambling to protect their economies. Even US-friendly nations are now questioning the reliability of their biggest trading partner. Washington is no longer seen as a predictable player. It's viewed as a volatile wildcard. The lesson from 1930 was clear. Tariffs don't save nations, they sink them. And yet, 95 years later, America is choosing the same doomed path. The numbers are brutal. The global reaction is brewing, and the domestic fallout is only beginning to show. Tariffs historically are leverage tools, carrots and sticks to extract concessions. But leverage only works when backed by legitimacy and coordination. What the Trump administration attempted was unilateralism at scale, an effort to muscle 150 countries into compliance without consent, timeline, or legal precedent. But instead of bending the world, it broke confidence in U.S. leadership. The question isn't what tariff comes next. It's whether the global economy can take another hit without crumbling. This is a story that we will be updating soon, so subscribe so you do not miss the next analysis.